All right. Hi, guys. Welcome back to Lecture 18, Part 2. We'll be talking about Microsoft Xbox in this part of the lecture. So, we've already talked about the Sega Dreamcast and Sega's exit from the industry. We've talked about the dominance of the PlayStation 2 during this era. So, now we're going to take a look at a new entry into the console market with the Microsoft Xbox. So, Microsoft being a multi-billion-dollar company, their operating system dominates PCs worldwide. Their Office software is widely used throughout the enterprise business world. Why in the world would they want to get into video games? And the reason is because of what we talked about with the Sony part of the lecture, where Microsoft realized that future entertainment would likely be delivered digitally, and that we were going to have digital lifestyles, and whatever's attached to that big screen in your living room is going to be what all your entertainment passes through. Microsoft would have preferred for that to have been a PC. We talked a little bit about that with the home theater PCs and things like that and the Windows Media formats that Microsoft tried to popularize with their operating system. But to be safe and also to just sort of expand their reach into a different market, Microsoft decided to make a game console. They decided to it's the Xbox. Fun fact: it derives its name from the DirectX set of standards for graphics and sound that Microsoft had published to make game development for PC more standardized. So Xbox, that's why it's Xbox. So essentially, they enter the market to diversify their business and to gain a foothold in the living room in case PCs don't become the dominant hardware attached to your TV. So it did have good third-party support. Microsoft had relationship with lots of game developers worldwide from the PC side of their business, and so they did well there. Initially, Electronic Arts snubbed them, which was a big deal because of the sports games. But as the Xbox proved a viable game console, EA and other people who were reticent at the start to support Microsoft ended up coming around. Microsoft is the first US company to be successful with a game console since the Atari back in the early 80s. And when we say successful, we're not talking about making money. The Microsoft Xbox division lost money until like 2008 or 2009. I can't remember when they finally turned a profit. But the Xbox business was not profitable at first. They lost money on it for many years. But it was successful in the sense that it sold enough units, it had got enough support that it showed Microsoft that this was a viable market for them, that this was something they could successfully pursue. And so that's why they've continued to go down this road, even though the majority of their business still stems from the operating system and the Office software that they're more well known for, as well as their Azure web service and some of the other things about them. It was successful in the United States. It gained decent market share here. Xbox was not successful in Japan. For one, the original Xbox is a humongous game console. I'm going to hold one up to my head so you can see that the size differential here. This thing weighs about 8 or 9 pounds. I can't remember. You could literally this is like the only game console I can think of that you could probably kill a person with by swinging it around. Um, it is the most powerful hardware of this generation. Uh, every Xbox has a hard drive and a broadband internet connection. So those are two things that really separate the Xbox from both the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube and the Dreamcast is the fact that it had a hard drive built in and they would only work with broadband or internet. So no dial-up, no analog, which is what we saw with the Sega Dreamcast. Uh, because it had a hard drive, the Xbox became extremely popular with the mod community. People would like open it up, put a bigger hard drive, modify the software so it could play pirated games or um, rip DVDs or whatever things people wanted to do with it. And I'll show you an example of that in the hardware demo on Tuesday. But the hard drive is what made it very popular. So the system itself comes out in 2001. It cost $300. You could play DVDs, very similar to the PlayStation 2. There was recognition that they wanted this to be an entertainment system as well as a game console. It did cost a little extra for that, but not too bad. It did have the hard drive. The hard drive is the first one in a game console, so it lets you rip music from CDs that you could play from the Xbox. Excuse me. You could also use them. You could also take the rip music and use it as the soundtrack for games, which was really nifty. So if you really liked heavy metal or country music or hip hop, and that's what you wanted to play your games to, you could easily do that on an Xbox. It lets you download patches for games. It actually lets you download games itself, though on the original Xbox, I believe there were only a couple of very small games. The Miss Pac-Man arcade game was one of the very first games you could buy for download. I've got the note there that it supported the custom soundtrack, so you're getting convergence. This is a good example of personalization. The Ethernet port was specific because they wanted to create a online gaming service for consoles, which is Xbox Live. This was the first time that was done for a game console, and it was the first time. How would I put this? It's sort of the first time people thought about charging for online gaming in a systemic way. There were games that had subscription fees occasionally, things like Warcraft and some others, World of Warcraft, excuse me, and some other games. But on most PC games at this point in time, if they had or supported online gameplay, it was generally free. So getting everyone to pay for it was sort of a big coup on Microsoft's part. So let's talk about that. Xbox Live on the original Xbox cost $60 a year. I think it's very similar to that now. Basically, it allowed you to play games online with others. The original Xbox doesn't have extra features, so there's no Netflix, there's no Hulu. All that stuff comes later. It comes in the next generation of game consoles. So what they were offering for $60 a year was simply the ability to play games online with other people, with every game supporting voice chat. Um, if it's online. So it's important to note that Microsoft owns and manages Xbox Live, which means if other companies want to use it, Microsoft might be able to charge them fees. Um, Microsoft takes responsibility for all the traffic on their network, and they take the money that gamers use in their subscriptions, and they use that to power Xbox Live and make money. So pretty straightforward. All games that use Xbox Live were required to support real-time voice chat over the headset. And again, this was a very good move on Microsoft's part. On PC gaming at this time, you might play a multiplayer game, but oftentimes you would have to set up a separate chat server and something a little bit more complicated. All you had to do with Xbox Live was plug the headset in, and you were good to go. You could, yell at your friend Cliff while you guys played racing games or whatever stuff you were doing online. And online gaming in this era is pretty amazing. This was the first time console gamers got a taste of what online gaming could be. To give you an example, I was a grad student at this time, and I sat in my little apartment in Bloomington, Indiana, and I played Forza Motorsport. Uh, and I accidentally got on a German server where we were racing on the Nürburgring. And I apologize if I butchered the name of that track, but it's a real curvy German racetrack. It's very famous. And I was driving a Honda Civic or a Honda race car. I can't remember. Probably a Civic. That sounds like something I'd do. And I was literally getting made fun of by Germans in real time playing a game. Now, today that doesn't sound like a big deal, but in 2001 or two, that is mind-bogglingly cool. So Xbox Live really did open up the online gaming space to consoles in a way that had never been done before, and they did it very well. Microsoft Xbox with Xbox Live. Microsoft is very cagey about reporting these numbers, so I've gotten trying to get some more recent numbers, but anywhere between 50 and 60 million users. A lot of people use Xbox Live for streaming video. Obviously, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, all that stuff goes through there. But again, Xbox Live brought that sort of standardized online gaming to consoles. And Xbox Live has been a big plus for Microsoft when they're trying to gain market share. Sony, particularly with PlayStation 2 and 3, did not have a great online experience where Microsoft could leverage their PC expertise to provide a really solid and functional online platform for gamers. And again, they sell a lot of games via this. This supports online gaming on their platform. So again, a lot of revenue generation. In terms of games and franchises, the original Xbox is primarily known for Halo. Halo is the killer app for the Xbox One, or the original Xbox. People bought the Xbox just to play Halo 1. Halo 2 did an excellent job of taking advantage of Xbox Live and all kinds of different sort of PC FPS standard things like Deathmatch and Capture the Flag. Halo 2 implemented all of those for consoles. So the Halo franchise 1 and 2 appear on the original Xbox, really drove the system sales. The Dead or Alive fighting franchise that we saw the volleyball game of in Assignment 4 or 3, Assignment 4. The fighting part of the game was on Xbox. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is one of the sort of famous early BioWare RPGs. That's the same company who makes Dragon Age games and the Mass Effect games. Ninja Gaiden, and I talked about Forza Motorsports on the last slide, just a very fun, realistic racing simulation. So we'll take a look at a couple of these games on the stream and see how it goes. But again, for all intents and purposes, Halo was the big thing on the original Xbox. The inclusion of the hard drive made Xbox very popular with modding communities, bigger hard drives, software exploits, usually done to play pirated games and media. And again, we talked about this, that when you mod your Xbox, you're in direct violation of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which makes it a federal crime to mod your games, mod hardware to play pirated material. So kind of a quick review of all that for Microsoft Xbox. It's the first US game company to be successful or be competitive since Atari. Remember, it's viewed as successful because it establishes them in the market, gives them a foothold, but it is not financially successful at this time. Microsoft sees it as a way to get into that digital living room in case PC doesn't make it. Microsoft threw their weight behind this and ended up in second place this generation of consoles, right behind the PS2. Now it's pretty far behind the PS2. The PS2 really dominated this era in a way that's never been done since, other than maybe the NES back in the 80s. Xbox Live then establishes that online gaming and sales can be done on consoles, and Xbox is very much considered a leader in online console gaming. And then Microsoft took what they learned with the original Xbox and used it to launch the Xbox 360 in 2005. So we'll talk about that in a couple lectures later. All right, that's it for this one. We're going to head over to the GameCube next, and I will see you there.